Hello, everyone. Welcome to Options with Doug, streaming live on Monday and Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Bookmap Discord and the Bookmap YouTube channel. Before I get started, I need to go through the disclosures. General disclosure: all Bookmap limited materials, information, and presentations are for educational purposes only and should not be considered specific investment advice nor recommendations. Risk disclosure: trading futures, equities, and options involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Here's my contact information. The best way to get in touch with me is through Discord. My name on Discord is Doug P. Also in Bookmap Discord, there's an Options-Doug chat channel. You can post questions, comments, and content related to the topics of my presentation and the topics of the channel that I'll go through in just a moment. I'm also on X. My name there is @Pless. I have a couple of announcements. First of all, I want to let everyone know that Bookmap is requiring everyone to in Bookmap Discord to verify their account. So you will need to go through this process to fully participate in Bookmap Discord. You can go to this link or scan this QR code for more information. So once you start this process, you will need to enter your email that you registered at bookmap.com, and then you'll get a code. You verify your code, and then you're in, and you can fully participate in Bookmap, all the chat, and all of the streams available in Bookmap Discord. And there's a wide variety. There's my content, as well as many other stocks, futures, options, crypto. All right, next announcement. Bruce released a very, very good series of about supply and demand setups. This is in the bookmap.com Learning Center. It's available to everyone. I believe it's about a 10-part series, very short videos. Very helpful whether you trade with my approach with options or volume profile or VWAP, however you trade. This will help you have a better understanding of Bookmap and the setups and structure in Bookmap. All right, here are the key tenets to my approach for trading. This is the basis of my approach for trading. First of all, I believe that options trades and market maker hedging activity are key drivers of price in many stocks and futures. This certainly applies to the large cap tech stocks like the Magnificent Seven stocks, as well as the equity index futures like the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq 100. And for the S&P 500, SPX is the underlying index, SPY is the ETF version of that index, and the ES futures contract is a derivative of SPX. And when traders buy and sell puts and calls in SPX and SPY, market makers take the opposite side of those trades and they hedge their delta exposure with ES futures. And for the Nasdaq 100, NDX is the underlying index. QQQ is the much more liquid ETF version of that index. And the NQ futures contract is a derivative of NDX. And just like the S&P 500, when traders buy and sell puts and calls in NDX and QQQ, market makers take the opposite side of those trades and they hedge their delta exposure with NQ futures. And we'll see how important these levels are, SPX and SPY for ES and NDX and QQQ today when we take a look at the futures. The focus of my presentation today and the focus of the Options-Doug chat channel is options order flow, the impact of options markets on stocks and futures, and the influence of market maker hedging flow on price action. I have a two-step process for trading, and the first is planning. I use positional analysis. I look at how traders and market makers are positioned in the options market and how those positions change from day to day to develop a thesis regarding the expected trading range and volatility for the day, as well as a directional bias. And the second step in my process is execution. I look at real-time order flow in Bookmap and real-time market maker hedging flow in Spotgamma Hero to confirm my thesis, and for setups. And when I talk about setups today, I will be focusing on an underlying asset. Setups in that asset can be taken with futures contracts, shares of stock, or options depending on the asset as well as the way you like to trade. Questions and comments are welcome, and I will be watching both the Options-Doug chat channel as well as the chat and YouTube for your questions or comments. Please feel free to post. I'll do my best to answer questions. Hello, Floyd's Garage. Welcome. Glad you're here. Hello, Dan. Welcome. Glad you're here as well. Thanks for posting the link in Discord to my webinar today. All right, here's my agenda for today, Wednesday, April 30th. First of all, I want to go over news items, economic data, events, and earnings. A lot of stuff going on today. Big reactions to data today. And then we'll see how traders are setting up for Meta and Microsoft earnings, which both report after the market closes today. Then I'll go through my positional analysis. Then I'll review some setups from earlier today. Then I'll get to the live market. And when I get to the live market, if anyone has any stocks they want me to take a look at, please let me know. I'll be glad to do that. All right, let's get started. Get started with positional analysis. And I'm going to start with the S&P 500. This is the ES Futures and Bookmap. Very wide trading range today. Great short setups this morning. And now, since about 10 a.m., after the PCE data was released, the S&P 500 is trying to recover. And it looks like so far it's actually doing a pretty good job. So we'll go over this in much more detail in just a moment. And before I do that, I do want to take a look at a higher time frame. Then we'll get back to the Bookmap chart. So first of all, this is the SPX and a one year, 1 day chart. And this is the April 2nd, Liberation Day, Volatility Liberation Day, gap down to almost 4,800. That was actually overnight low, SPX 4,800. And now SPX is attempting to move up into that gap zone between the about 5,500 on the low side, and looks like the high for the day on April 2nd was right around 56.95. All right, so SPX continues to attempt to recover from that huge drop. Let's take a look at a 30-day 1 hour chart. Here's that April 2nd gap down. And this is the regular trading hours low for SPX 48.35. And again, SPX attempting to fill that gap. All right, let's take a look at the levels on this chart. Let's start with the expected moves. Dashed purple lines are showing the lower and upper weekly expected move. This is based on the options market, based on the closing price for SPX from Friday. Those levels remain in place for the entire week. Then the dashed blue lines are showing the lower and upper daily expected move, also based on the options market, based on the closing price for SPX from yesterday. I do post those levels in Discord every day the evening before. All right. Of course, SPX did move down, did gap down below the lower daily expected move earlier today. Now trading back up above that level. Just looking Discord, it looks like I actually missed posting the expected moves. I think I did not change the date, but I did post the expected moves. Did not change the date on that, but the expected moves are correct. So lower daily expected move right around 5,500, and the upper daily expected move right around 56.22. All right, let's take a look at the Spotgamma levels on this chart. These are shown with the dark red lines. They're available to Spotgamma subscribers. They're based available on a variety of trading platforms. I'm going to point out the key daily levels. First of all, 5,000 is the absolute gamma strike. That's a strike with the largest absolute positive and negative gamma. That level has remained in place for a while. Next level up is the put wall at 5,200. That's a strike with the largest net negative gamma that can be expected to act as support. And then the next level up is the volatility trigger at 5,500. Key level volatility trigger, SPX, trading up above that level now. That is Spotgamma's proprietary volatility and gamma flip level. Below that level, market makers' position on the gamma curve is negative. In a negative gamma environment, market makers have to trade with price stitch their delta exposure. That tends to enhance or increase volatility. And above that level, like SPX is trading now, market makers' position on the gamma curve is positive. In a positive gamma environment, market makers have to trade against price stitch their delta exposure. That tends to subdue or decrease volatility. Hello, Hector. Welcome. Glad you're here. And this is based on the older model of Spotgamma's older model. And we'll take a closer look at gamma in just a few minutes. And then finally, the call wall is at 5650. That is a strike with the largest net positive gamma that can be expected to act as resistance. And that level did move up 50 points from yesterday. All right, so shifts in levels. Again, SPX call wall moved higher. And for SPY, the volatility trigger and put wall moved higher. So slightly positive shifts higher in the levels for the SP 500. All right, let's wrap up our view of SPX with a 1-minute chart so we can get a closer look at what SPX is doing today. So there's that key 5,500 level. That is the lower daily expected move and also the volatility trigger. So you can see SPX opened up just below that level, moved down until PCE data came out, 10 a.m., and then now is moving higher. So SPX currently above the lower daily expected move and above the volatility trigger 5,500. Let's zoom in on this. Sorry, I should have zoomed earlier. So again, SPX now above that 5,500 key level. Let's take a quick look at SPY. There's a SPY level in play for today, and that is the 550 volatility trigger. Acting as resistance earlier today, now SPY has also broken out above its volatility trigger. We'll see that on the Bookmap chart right now. Key levels, there's the SPY 550 volatility trigger. That's also the absolute gamma strike. Again, acting as resistance. Now, S&P 500 has broken out above that level. And then here's the SPX 5,500 volatility trigger. And around that level acted as support earlier today. All right, note there's a difference in price between ES and SPX. Currently, that's right around 24. So today it has ranged from right around 23 to 25, currently right around 24. That's what I'm using. So I'm showing SPX 5,500 volatility trigger at ES 5524. All right, let's take a look at the structure on this chart and the data releases. And actually, I did skip the news. Sorry about that. So let's review the news, then we'll get back to this. All right, so let's take a look at the news this morning. where did I put that? Right here. All right, so let's get back to the news. Then we'll take a look at how the S&P 500 has reacted to the news. First of all, this is the ADP employment report that came out at 8:15, and this is the employment change. Came in less than expected, less than previous. Then one of the big data releases for the day, the GDP, came in negative, less than expected, less than the previous number. And then the PCE data came out at 10 a.m., kind of an unusual time, but PCE data, that also came in less than expected, less than previous, which is actually good. And the market had a negative reaction to GDP and a positive reaction to the PCE data. So there are a variety of PCEs, the year over year, month over month, core, and then the PCE data. All right, so that's the data. And then we'll talk more about earnings reports when we get to stocks, Meta, Microsoft in particular, and how the market is positioning, how traders are positioning, and what to expect. All right, so sorry about skipping the news, but again, let's get back to the S&P 500 now and take a look at the reactions to the news. So here's the 8:30 a.m. data release. That is the GDP data. Came in less than expected, less than the previous, and also negative. Market didn't like that. And then here's the cash open, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Great short setup there. So really the play for today was short from 8:30 to 10 a.m. when the PCE data came out. And then there's the PCE data. And it looks like there were already some traders coming in with buy orders shown by the green volume dots. Cumulative volume delta started to rise before 10 a.m. So there were some aggressive buyers coming in before the 10 a.m. data release. All right, so let's take a look at the structure on this chart. Again, downtrend in the morning, then consolidation, then a breakdown right at the cash open. Whoops. A lot of large magenta volume dots. Aggressive sellers. Then this trend break at 10 a.m. A lot of aggressive buyers coming in. So that move higher at 10 a.m. was fueled by aggressive buyers, as well as buy stop orders that's shown by the rising yellow line. Let me clean that up. So trend break, impulse move higher, and then back to this consolidation range from earlier, which was between around SPY 546 and SPY 547. Then a breakout of that level right around 11 a.m., break above VWAP into a consolidation. Actually a little bit wider, a couple of tests of VWAP here. And then a breakout above that range, which the high end of that top of the range was 550. So there's the structure for the day. And it looks like ES is back to the right about that level. That is SPY 551 and also ES 5550. And that is the reversal point for the GDP report this morning. All right, so large moves, consolidation, trend breaks, and then more consolidation, and then breaking out of this range. All right, that's the S&P 500. And let's take a look at Nasdaq now. Also note, we'll take a closer look at this in just a minute. This is we can zoom in and see that this algo, this like a cloud of dust around the S&P 500 that kind of obscures the heat map. As we zoom in, we can see that algo above and below the market. You can see that right here is back. This one right here. And I have this trader map light that helps to obscure that, so you can see the more of the longer term buy and sell orders, limit buy sell orders in the order book that help to frame these consolidation levels. All right, on to Nasdaq now. We'll get back to this in just a few minutes. All right, Nasdaq, similar structure. 8:30 reaction to the data, GDP data. Breakdown at the the breakdown of the cash open here, and trend break, and nice recovery to consolidation, then a break above the consolidation. In this case, that was framed by this, the 471 zero gamma level. That's QQQ. All right, let's take a look at the key levels on this chart. First of all, let's take a look at the underlying index charts. I'm going to go first of all to QQQ. There's that 471 zero gamma level. And note for QQQ, 470 is the absolute gamma strike. So earlier today, there was some chop within that range with a few drops well down below. All right, we'll take a look at Nasdaq now. And we can see the 19,000 level as key support today. And that is the 19,000 put wall for NDX. Key support. So Nasdaq traded down to 19,011, just above the 19,000 put wall. And now trading above the 19,380 volatility trigger. All right, back to NQ. Zoom just a little bit so we can see those levels. Note the NQ to NDX offset today is 100 points. So the NDX 19,000, that's a large gamma 4 put wall, lines up with the NQ 19,100 and right around that level, acting as support key level. And here's the NDX 380 volatility trigger. And if we can zoom in, we see price broke above that level, and then it was acting as support. Here's the QQQ volatility trigger up above at 474. All right, so that's Nasdaq. Shifts in levels. For Nasdaq, NDX, the volatility trigger and absolute gamma strike shifted higher. And for QQQ, the volatility trigger also shifted higher, again up to 474, up above. So right now, NQ is between the volatility triggers. All right, back to ES. Another consolidation. All right, let's wrap up our positional analysis by taking a look at gamma. I'm going to start by taking a look at market maker's position on the gamma curve at the beginning of the day. It was slightly negative. This is, again, market maker's position on the gamma curve at the beginning of the day for the S&P 500, Nasdaq, Russell 2000. This is based on the older model. And these numbers did shift up and down, but still generally negative, slightly negative. I'd say neutral or negative. All right, let's take a real-time look at gamma. This is based on the updated model, the newer model. And the red shading does indicate negative gamma. So in a negative gamma environment, we're looking for a wider range of movement, faster movement, more trending market, rather than mean reverting price action. And there are a couple of positive gamma nodes. First of all, right here at 5,500. That was the same as yesterday, positive gamma. This is market maker's position, gamma exposure GEX. And then 5540 to 5550, a little bit more positive gamma. But overall, a sea of red, negative gamma, and very low stability index at 0%. So again, looking for a wider range of movement as market makers trade in the direction of price. All right, so my thesis for the day, I was looking for higher volatility, and in this environment, really looking for reactions to data. And that's exactly what happened today. The GDP, not good, less than zero, negative, less than expected, less than previous, very negative, bullish, bearish reaction to that, and then a bullish reaction to the PCE data. All right, let's move on. Let's take a look at some setups now. I'm going to start with the S&P 500. This is the hero signal. This is available to Spotgamma subscribers, and there, again, starting with the S&P 500, there are two signals that we can take a look at. This is the S&P 500 index signal. And what this chart is showing is options trades and market maker hedging activity for the S&P 500 index components. And that is SPX, SPY, XSP, and ES futures. There are actually three lines on this chart. The first line, the white line, is price for SPX. And there are two lines I'm showing for the hero signal. I'll turn off one of them in just a moment. The purple line is showing options trades, market maker hedging activity for all expirations. This is all trades. And then the teal line is showing options trades and market maker hedging activity for next expiry trades, in which for the S&P 500, that would be trades, options that expire today. So that is the next expiry, or 0 DTE. And I'm showing both lines to just show how much of the trade today in options is based on 0 DTE trades. So the total is just under 2 billion, and then that is for the all trades, the purple line, and then the 0 DTE about 1.33. So about 67%, 2/3 of the options trades today are in 0 DTE trades. All right, let me turn that off so we can just focus on the longer term, the total signal. Again, this encompasses 0 DTE as well as all other expirations. So let's take a look, two key trades today. First of all, a short setup just after the cash open, or even earlier if you're trading futures before the cash open, right after the GDP report at 8:30. This set up a very nice short right at 9:35, just 5 minutes after the cash open. And staying short down to 10 a.m. when the PCE data came out. So that is the options trades, the index signal. Let's take a look at the equity signal. Very similar picture. Typically the index signal is a little bit more noisy, and it shows the turning points a little bit more clearly. But in this case, both the equity signal, this is showing options trades and market maker hedging activity for all 500 stocks in the S&P 500 index, setting up somewhat of a divergent short here. Again, right at 935. Hero signal moving down from the open. There was a little bit of a bump up in price and then a quick reversal lower. Very nice short setup right there at 936, 935, 936. Again, no need to even consider going long until 10 a.m. Let's shift to puts and calls. So we can see that the orange line showing calls, blue line showing puts. So traders are selling calls and buying puts. Shift over to the S&P 500. Zoom in again. All right, so that's the same story. Traders buying puts and selling calls. So that is a bearish opening drive and then also bearish momentum up until about 10 a.m. And note on this index signal here that the low in the put signal was before 10 a.m. So traders stopped buying puts, started selling puts a few minutes before the data release. All right, so back to Bookmap. Then very strong bullish momentum up until about noon, and then up and down more consolidation. So we'll take a look, first of all, the short setup, then the long. Sorry about all the zooming. I have a lot open. It's taking Bookmap a little time to respond. So I'm going to zoom in from right around 8 to 11. I'm going to tone down the heat map here so we can just focus on more of the price action, the order flow. All right, so again, there's the short before the cash open. Now the S&P 500 signal does display before the cash open. At that time, SPX and ES options are trading. So if you want to trade before the cash open, you use Hero. The S&P 500 index signal is available before the cash open. So nice short there. And this is showing a series of nice pullback shorts. There's the first one right after the 8:30 a.m. data release. Next one. And then this is the cash open. You can see a lot of aggressive sellers come in at the cash open. Nice trend break there. And then another trend break, short trend break. And that was right at ES 5500. And price traded down. This is the Spotgamma implied one-day move low. Price did trade down below that level. And then reversed as the 10 a.m. data came out. So multiple short setups. Very nice pullbacks. 1, 2, 3, 4. This one was pushing a little bit. This last one right above the Spotgamma implied one-day move low as a lot of aggressive buyers were starting to come in, shown by the green volume dots. And you can also see cumulative volume delta starting to shift up before 10 a.m. So multiple entries on very nice shorts up until 10 a.m. All right, so at 10 a.m. again, remember, cumulative volume delta started shifting higher. You can see the green volume dots coming in. One attempted reversal higher, and then the next one comes at 10 a.m. as the data released. And then after that, aggressive buyers and buy stop orders helped to fuel the move higher up to that first consolidation level. Consolidation here, same level. Same levels here, and then breakout above. Looks like there was a breakout, then a retest. And ES continued to move higher. So looking at the big picture, two primary setups today. Short starting at 8:30 down to 10 a.m. and the long 10 a.m. Let's go back to Hero. I'm going to shift back to the total signal. Zoom out. Actually, let's go back to puts and calls. So we can see some peaks starting to form. This one just afternoon, call peaks. Another call peak here. And those can be signals of either reversal or definitely the call buyers that are driving price slowing down. Or let's go to the equity signal. And the equity signal not as clear. The this is a very low number for equities, minus 543 million. Well, let's move on to Nasdaq. Take a look at Nasdaq, get to some stocks, then we'll get to the live market. Nasdaq, here's the Nasdaq index signal. Let me zoom in on this. I'm going to shift. So this is showing a very nice divergent short setup this morning. Price moved higher for about 5 minutes. And traders were taking negative delta options positions. And this turned a little bit after 10 a.m. as price started to move higher. So that is the Nasdaq signal that combines NDX and QQQ options trades. That's similar to the S&P 500 index signal. Next signal we can take a look at for the Nasdaq. And this is price for NDX. And again, the options trades, hero signal for NDX and QQQ, the combined signal. Let's take a look at Mag 7. Similar story. Bearish divergence from the open. And then up, but pretty choppy after that. Looks like there was a large block order just came in. It's right here on the right side. So that is one or more of the Mag 7 signals. We'll chase that down in just a minute. So let's go to Nasdaq. All right, so there's the result, that block order, which is in the Mag, we saw in the Mag 7 signal, would be in the S&P 500 equity signal. That might have been news. Let's go back. Let's take a look and see if that showed up in the index signal. Yeah, it looks like that block order came in the index signal as well. Might have been news. Let me check Financial Juice real quick. All right, 2:07, a couple of minutes ago, this was reported on Financial Juice. U.S. reaches out to China recently for tariff discussions. All right, so that was news. So that is across the indexes as well as the Mag 7. All right, so let's go back to Bookmap now. Go to Nasdaq. And sorry, again, I've got a lot open, so this is going to be a little slow today. So we know the NDX 19,000 level acted as support. Now on the Nasdaq, it looks like large traders were fading this move down. That's shown by the rising light blue line. Coming in just after 9:30, large traders fading that move, buying the move down, buying weakness with iceberg orders they used to hide their size. And then cumulative volume delta started to rise before 10 a.m. That's shown by the magenta line. And then after 10 a.m., buy stop orders, that's shown by the rising yellow line, also helped to fuel that move higher. So there's Nasdaq. Breakdown, consolidation, more breakdown, support at 19,000, NDX 19,000. Aggressive buyers come in, back up, resistance at the 0 gamma level, and then now breaking out above that level. Breaking out above the breaking out above the 380 volatility trigger, heading up to the QQQ, 474 volatility trigger, and the NDX 19,500 large gamma 2 level just above that, which lines up with NQ 19,600. Let's take a quick look at some stocks, then we'll get to the live market. First stock I want to take a look at. Any questions about the indexes? Questions, comments? Well, let's take a look at Apple. I'm going to stick with the Mag 7 components today. Let's see what options traders were doing in Apple. So in Apple, this morning there was a bearish opening drive. Whoops. Traders were buying puts and selling calls. That lasted till about 9:45. Let's zoom in on that. I'm going to shift to puts and calls too. So we'll zoom in on that. Traders, sorry about that. Hero shifted back to the lines. Instead of the candlesticks, I think there was must have been a bug with the candlesticks, but there's been a bug with the lines for quite some time, this auto zoom. So let's go back to Apple. Stick to puts and calls. So traders, the orange line showing calls, blue line showing puts. Traders are selling calls, buying puts. Flow alert comes in just after 9:40. Signals significant options activity. Get your attention and signals a potential reversal in hedging flow from negative delta to positive delta. That's exactly what happened. Hector, you're welcome. And remember, this is recorded, so you can watch the rest of it later on. Bearish opening drive, bearish momentum. Full alert comes in. Traders start selling puts at 10 a.m. Start buying calls a few minutes later. And there's that reaction in Apple to the news, traders buying calls. Or let's go take a look at Bookmap. Apple, there's that bearish opening drive. And then you can see that Apple started to reverse higher before 10 a.m. Let me zoom just a little bit. So that was just a good opportunity to go long. as Apple made a series of higher lows. Hitting multiple liquidity targets. These are limit sell orders. They were limit sell orders in the order book, acting as magnets for price. All right, so that's Apple. Next stock I want to take a look at is Meta. Meta does report earnings after the close today. Meta, the expected moves right around plus or minus 7%. Meta also a bearish opening drive. Reversed just before 10 a.m. Let's see what options traders are doing. Go to Meta. Very choppy hero signal here today. I'm going to go to the total, and I'm going to have to jump back. Yeah, to me, this, other than the bearish opening drive, this is very choppy signal, difficult to trade. Just wanted to show Meta because it is reporting earnings after the close. Bearish opening drive, full alert, hero signal versus higher, price versus higher. All right, let's go back to puts and calls so we can just get a look at the total. All right, back to Meta. So net for the day, traders are buying puts and selling calls. Let's take a look at Equity Hub here for Meta. And I will leave this to Spotgamma subscribers for a more detailed description of these potential setups. So this is the new model. So what this is showing is positive gamma down below, low volatility point 455, high volatility right around 650. So this indicates positive gamma. Based on this model, Spotgamma looking for support down below in this positive gamma zone. So one way to trade this is to sell puts or put spreads. And with this increased high volatility up above, not necessarily looking to sell calls. So let's see what traders are doing, not necessarily following this advice. Whoops, what it meant to go back to hero. Let's go back to hero. So net for the day, traders are selling puts. So check there, but they're also selling calls. So they're selling premium ahead of the report, and calls the notional value, delta notional value, over twice the size of the put notional value. But net for the day, they are selling puts and selling calls as well. All right, so that is Meta. Let's take a look at Microsoft. So net for the day, traders are selling calls and buying puts. All right, so let's go, we'll take a look at Microsoft on Bookmap. More bullish than Meta. Put it in the bottom right around 385 at 10 a.m. All right, let's go take a look at Hero again. So we see net for the day, traders are buying puts and selling calls. So let's go back to Equity Hub now. Take a look at the how market makers are positioned for Microsoft. What this is showing is positive gamma up above. So let's see, Microsoft is trading at right now right around 390. Showing positive gamma up above 400. And this low volatility point, positive gamma, potential resistance right at 410. So potential resistance up above And the recommendation there would be to sell call spreads. And let's see what traders are doing. And so far, they are selling calls, but they're also buying puts. And net for the day, the notional value for puts is much higher than calls. All right, so there's Microsoft. Any questions about these? All right, let's take a look at a couple of other stocks. Then we'll get to the live market. Nvidia for today. Traders mainly buying calls. That's shown by the rising orange line. When traders buy calls, market makers sell the calls. They have to buy stock to hedge their delta exposure. And Nvidia keeps getting hit with one piece of bad news after another. Huawei, I guess that's how you pronounce it, the Chinese company, announced a competing AI chip. Then SMCI came out with a preliminary announcement of earnings yesterday that was much less than expected. And then otherwise, NVIDIA keeps trying to move higher, again, even though being hit with negative news. So today, traders are buying calls, driving price higher. Let's take a look at Bookmap. Let's go to NVIDIA. You can see all the green volume dots, aggressive buyers in NVIDIA, rising cumulative volume delta, that's shown by the dark blue line here, and really ignoring the news this morning. Buyers coming in at the cash open, that's shown by the opening print there, large green volume dot. NVIDIA makes a series of higher lows and continues that. Up until reaching this target at 107, high liquidity target. And then the next target up above is the 108 level. And that's a hedge wall. So there's the 108 hedge wall. Next target up above for NVIDIA. As traders continue to buy calls, you can see the call line it continues to rise. And now traders are selling puts as well. Blue line, orange line moving the same direction. That is a powerful directional indicator. But the call buyers definitely far outnumbering the put sellers. All right, so that's NVIDIA. Let's take a look at Tesla. Choppy day in Tesla. Let's zoom in a little bit. We can get more clarity. So first of all, very bearish opening drive. Traders selling calls, buying puts. Price breaks below the 275 hedge wall. Flow alert signals significant options activity. Get your attention just after the cash open for a bearish opening drive. And then later on during the day, these call peak patterns. Whoops. Very reliable short setups. Looks like some aggressive call buyers came in right around 115. So bearish opening drive, then short setups at just before 1030 and just after 11:15. So let's go take a look at Bookmap. All right, I'll zoom down a bit. So net for the day, cumulative volume delta is rising. Traders are buying Tesla shares. The setups that were apparent in Hero, the bearish opening drive, And then these call peaks, really just setting up pullbacks. Or that one set up a pullback, trend break, and a break above VWAP. And there was that second call peak setting up a nice short from right around 281 down close to the 275 level. Then remember the call buyers that came in, aggressive call buyers came in right around 115. Price jumped higher back up to 280. All right, back to Hero. There's that second call peak. This price reversed lower. And then the call buyers, again, remember, came in at 115. And then they took the foot off the gas between 2 and 215. I'm going to shift back to the total. Let's go to the index signal. Take one last look at Tesla. Any questions? Anyone have any stocks they want me to take a look at? All right, let's get back to the S&P 500. I'm going to zoom in. Actually, let me clean this up just a little bit. Now zoom in. I'm going to darken up the heat map. I'm going to go to Trader Map Lite. I'm going to zoom in. See if that provides any clarity on the heat map. So we can see limit buy orders below right around 55, 50. Sell orders above at 65. They've been there. It looks like they were consumed with that jump up. Now they came back in right around 220. All right, back to the standard heat map. Zoom in again. All right, so we can see those buy orders below right at 55.50, and then the sell orders above at 65. And below that we have the 0 gamma level. And ES making a very nice series of lower highs, and looks like maybe breaking down below this consolidation. So we can see if it'll break down below this low point. All right, let's see what options traders are doing right now. Let's go back to Hero. All right, we are on the index signal. Remember, ES is making a series of lower highs, and that's the same for the Hero signal. So options traders fading this move. And wow, look away for a minute, and ES did break down below this level right here. I'm going to draw that line with a horizontal line right there. So we'll see if that line acts as resistance. So far it did. Let's zoom out, just quickly get a little bit of bigger picture. So we're back in this consolidation zone. Right around 550 on the downside. So far that holding as support. And then 55.50 and the SPY 551 on the upside. So overall, this consolidation zone really from 550, SPY 550 on the downside and SPY 551 on the upside, so about a 10-point zone for ES. Let's see what options traders are doing. And they continue to take negative delta options positions in the index. Let's check equities, and my time is up, so I'm going to need to wrap it up. A little bit more clarity to me in the index signal. All right, back to Bookmap. Last call for questions. All right, everyone, I want to thank you very much for watching. And remember, Meta, Microsoft, also Robinhood, Qualcomm report earnings after the market closes. Tomorrow, data release 10 a.m., ISM, manufacturing PMI. Then Apple and Amazon report earnings after the market closes. And then on Friday, the jobs report comes out at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. All right, everyone. Again, thank you very much for watching. Have a great afternoon, and I will see you next Monday. Bye.